Hello again. Okay, if you listened to the last podcast, I'm recording this one on that same day. I think this is episode 12. I might be wrong. And let's start off with the meme for this episode. Actually, it's not even a meme, it's just a video that I saw. And I'll describe it. So the video starts by a mama bear, like walking on it looks like a wall. It's a wall, but it's like a house. And you know how some houses have like walls on on their backyard? And it starts that way. It starts with the bear and her cubs, mama bear, and they're walking on the ledge, and then you hear dogs barking. And then here comes like this big ass dog rushing to like bark at the bear, and then there's two little ones that are coming behind that bigger one. The bigger one tries to bite the bear. You could see the cubs like running to like the corner away from their mom because they're scared, and the mom is like, "Yo, what's up?" And the dog like tries to bite the bear. And then obviously the bear is like, "Bitch," and slaps the dog. And then you see this woman, because the dog starts crying, so then the woman came out. And okay, this woman grabbed the dog, like pushed it off the bear or whatever, and then went on to try and push the fucking bear off of the ledge. Like, bitch, it's a bear. Why are you gonna try and fight a bear? And this reminded me of that Australian video where the guy is like, the kangaroo has the dog in a headlock, and then the guy punched the kangaroo, and then the kangaroo's like, "Yo, what the fuck? Are you allowed to do that to me?" And then the guy just walks away while the kangaroo shook. That's kind of what happened in this case, where the bear gets pushed by the lady, and the bear is like, "What the fuck did you just do to me?" And the bear shook. The cubs are nowhere in sight, and then the lady just leans down. Like, the bear could have easily like slapped her and like scratched her face off because she was that close to the bear. And the lady just grabs the little dogs and like runs away from the bear, and the bear's just shook. But yeah, that's a pretty funny video. I'll post that too. And let's start the podcast. And all right after the trip happened, I started my internship. I'm not gonna say where I work or anything because but the project that I'm working on right now is actually in Racine. It's 45 minutes from Milwaukee, and I have to drive there every day. And the company, like where the project is actually like a pretty well-known company. They make bug spray, they make candles, they make cleaning products, they make a lot of stuff that it's in the market. You know how companies do that where they buy off smaller companies and they own it, but like they keep the name the same. I think that's what it is. And yeah, that place is like an old building, and like some of the buildings were fixing some stuff, but that place itself, like, it's a big campus, and it's an old building. Like, the actual building, when it was built, I don't know when it was built, but you could tell like it was kind of before card swipe access and stuff like that. The new building, I have to have a badge in order to get through. But the old building, so you have to go through a tunnel to get to the old building. And that building is so confusing. Like I said, it has a tunnel, but there's a bunch of other tunnels. And I think that's because, they were trying to hide their information and making sure that nobody like steals from them and stuff like that. But it was confusing when I first began getting around, but then I figured it out. And yes, this episode is going to be more about work or whatever, so if you want to skip it, go ahead, but I have some dope stories. But so much happened in pop culture this past month that I wish I would have talked about it during the podcast, but I didn't, and that's fine. I could talk about new stuff that comes along. Anyway, going back to where I'm working, my boss is weird, bro. He's kind of weird. Like, I was working there on a Saturday. Obviously, people who work there aren't there because they usually work during the week. And he was like I said, it's an old building, it's confusing, but this dude clearly has been there a lot, like walked around everywhere a lot. And the reason I say that is because everything was so confusing, but yet he knew exactly where everything was, and he kind of like showed me around. There was like this area that still had stuff from like, I don't know, I should have probably asked, but from the earlier days of that company when it started. And like I said, they make cleaning products and all kinds of stuff. So obviously there was a lab, and it was like walking, like transporting into the past. So like in movies where, I guess like Marvel movies, when they time travel back or whatever, if you saw the last Avengers movie, it's kind of like that where you get transported back, and it was really cool, and I wanted to touch stuff. Like, I'm always touching things, which I shouldn't, but I tried to, and then I was like, no, let's not touch anything. Yeah, and it turns out that his ID card was like, he didn't have access to some of the places. So I'm assuming that, like I said, he's been there a lot, to the point to where security is like, all right, we gotta cut this motherfucker off. He's wandering around too much. And then when I was getting in the elevator, I saw a lady, and she had like a plant in her hand, but it wasn't like the root. It was just like cut off piece from like a bush or something. And then I made a comment about it because I thought it was weird. Like, she was holding it in her hand, and I was like, nice plant or whatever. She was like, thank you. I got it from outside. I'm like, this bitch really just stole a piece of plant from outside and just brought it in like nobody's business. And I was like, oh, nice, nice. Interesting. And then she went on to tell me about how, have you seen those little red bushes outside? And she basically told me that she also stole a piece from that just so she could go back home and plant it. And I'm like, that's kind of smart. But also, is that allowed? I don't know. But I might just do that. I mean, I want to get into planting for some reason. I have like some space in my room, and I want to learn about plants, but I feel like they would die in my room. But I've also heard that's common for people who are just learning how to take care of plants. A lot of their plants die. It might be a new hobby that I get into. And I did make some notes of things that I want to talk about. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but there was fraud on my account, like my bank account. Like, you know how I mentioned last episode about how the company from my school that does the pictures basically like somebody broke into their system and like stole a bunch of credit card accounts. Well, this happened to me already weeks before I heard about that. And like I said, I don't know if I talked about it, but I'm going to talk about it again. But somebody stole my bank, like I have BMO Harris, so somebody stole that information from me, and they tried to steal or they tried to buy stuff like from 3 different states at the same time. So obviously, like, my bank automatically canceled it, but yet again, I only had $40 in that account, so it's not like they would have been able to take anything anyway. Like, I think that's the real reason it got canceled, because I didn't have a lot of money in my account. But I'm not broke though. I mean, I kind of am. I was gonna say like I have more money in other accounts, but it's like, no, life's pretty rough right now. After that trip, my money started going down, so I kind of have to rebuild. But anyway, I was watching movies with my niece, and they were older movies, so like from the early 2000s. You know how it be like, sometimes some movies take a while before taking off and becoming like popular and mainstream or whatever. And we were watching one movie, and I was like explaining to her how the culture used to be back then. And it was like, I think it was 2006 maybe, that movie. when that movie was made. But I was like telling her like back then, like being skinny, like being a stick was like considered like the norm of like how women should look like. And now it's a little bit different. You know, obviously you have people like Lizzo who are like, you have to embrace your body, you have to embrace what you look like. And there's also been like a lot of movement to not there. First of all, there was movement of like obesity's bad and like you're gonna die and all this stuff. And then there was a movement of like, no, like all body types, you know, you have to accept all of them. And obviously, like in hip hop itself, when Nicki Minaj was becoming popular, she obviously glorified having a big butt and like a tiny waist and boobs done. And then, she, you know, obviously she also did like Brazilian butt lift or whatever. And that's like what's glorified more now in like hip hop and like, you know, just culturally that's more acceptable to have a big butt than to not have a butt. I haven't gone to the gym in so long that I really have no muscles in me anymore. I have no muscles whatsoever, and I don't like how that looks, so I'm gonna have to start going to the gym again. I'll let you guys know if I see my gym bae, whatever. I feel dumb talking about that. And yeah, just telling her like, oh, this is what was popular and like the fashion itself too, like low waist jeans and how like muffin tops happened. They basically like shaped women's body a certain way because that's what the fashion was back then. What else was on there that I was like, you have to pay attention to it? Oh yeah, like big bags. Like you had to have a purse and the purse itself was big. That was like another thing that was popular back then. I don't know if purses are as popular now. I don't think so. Like definitely like moms have it because they're from that era. But I never really got into purses. I wanted to get into purses just because they look cute with like an outfit. You can make them look cute, but I don't feel comfortable putting my stuff in a bag just so somebody could take it and leave with it and then I never see my stuff again. So, yeah, that was another thing that was popular. Obviously, like hoop earrings were very popular back then, and lip gloss. Yeah, another thing I want to talk about is like insecurities. The doctor from the show Botched did kind of have this little viral moment recently because he was talking about BBLs and how like it's really bad because if you put slight amount of fat in the wrong spot, like a vein or something that's connected to your heart, you could literally die. And yeah, I was like thinking more about like insecurities and I remember seeing a video about a woman who was like probably in her 70s, I don't know. I'm gonna probably exaggerate her age, but she was pretty old. You know, she had kids, she had grandkids, and she was talking about how nobody has ever seen her without makeup. And she's like, not even my husband has ever seen me without makeup. And I'm thinking like, so then you sleep with makeup because he's gonna turn around and see you. But she was talking about how in the morning before her husband wakes up, that's the first thing she does. She puts on makeup because she doesn't want him to see her without makeup. And her kids, her grandkids have never seen her without makeup. And then in that video, she basically had, or she showed her face without makeup. And that was like so extreme for her because, you know, she was insecure about it. And that's interesting, you know, being so insecure about something to that extreme to where it could harm you. And I've been trying to work on my insecurities too. I feel like I did grow a lot in the last couple of years. I used to be so insecure in like middle school and high school, but I got over that pretty much when I got to college. I started growing from that because I don't want to live like that the rest of my life. You know, worrying about my insecurities, but it still happens just randomly. Like, you know, what are people gonna think? And I'm like, nah, nah, who the fuck cares? Oh, and yeah, for my graduation, I had made my graduation hat. I decorated that with Elon Musk. So I was like, have you heard of my Lord and Savior Elon Musk? And then I added like logos from like Dogecoin, Tesla, SpaceX, Neuralink. But I didn't win. Actually, I don't even know how many votes I got because I deleted my social media like a week after I graduated. So I don't know what happened to it, but I'm pretty sure the girl that won, she like made hers about like her mom passing away and she won. So congratulations to her. Going back to work, I feel like such a bitch because my job is basically to walk around and look at what other people are doing, and then I go to back to my office. So it feels shitty because basically I have family who has been on that end, like I talked about on the last episode, how we're basically running the country. So I feel kind of messed up just like walking around and looking. But I was talking to my mom about it, and she was like, "Well, you did go to college. You did, struggle through that, so you wouldn't have to do those things." And I guess it's right, but it still feels kind of messed up. Another thing that happened at work, one of my coworkers is supposed to like be retired already, or he has retired a couple times, but he keeps coming back. And he like is not good with technology, which I feel like he is. All like I don't know either. But then if he asks something, I don't know either, but I'm just clicking around and I end up figuring it out. And he thinks I'm a genius for that. But he was talking about how he has in his line of work, there are times where he spends more time with like the other people than he does with his own family. And that's insane to me. I personally don't want to do that. I don't want my life to be that way for me to get to that point and realize that I spend more time at work than with my family. And there was another guy who was one of the security guys there, and he was telling me how he was on his break from work and he got so tired of his break that he was like, I have to go back to work. Like, I don't want to get to the point to where I function more at work than I do outside of work. Like, I don't want my like lifestyle to be work and only work. I want to be able to live, you know. Road trip is one of those things that help me live. Skydiving makes me feel like I'm alive and like there's meaning to life outside of being in an office. Actually, I'm kind of glad that I don't work in a cubicle and I'm not going to spend the rest of my days in a cubicle. And, at least in what I want to do, there are times when I get to like get out of my office and like look around and see what's happening, which that's pretty cool. And yeah, like I have to figure out like other ways to make money because I don't want to depend on work and have to spend so much time there and not with experiencing life. But anyway, another thing that I wanted to talk about was, oh yeah. So going back to like the movie and how things were so different back then. In the movie itself, they mentioned the R word, like what you call a person, like if they're really dumb, like R word, like you're not supposed to use that anymore. And the movie said it. And my nieces were like, oh my God, did they just use the R word? And I'm like, yeah, they did. I mean, it was like what happened back then, they would use it just randomly. And yeah, that's it for this episode. This is me in the future recording the outro because I had stopped recording and I can't remember where I was going with for the rest of this podcast or this episode. Uh, so I'll see you guys next time.